So welcome back to the Cooking the Basics. Today we're going to be talking about vinaigrettes and why it is so very simple to create vinaigrettes at home and why you should do that as opposed to going to supermarkets, markets in general. A lot of the times whenever you buy a dressing, it will have a little bit of preservatives in it. And whenever you make a citronette, a vinaigrette, and we will talk about the difference between the two at home, everything is fresh, it lasts for about a week, and your quantity isn't so big. Usually whenever you are at the supermarket, you can buy the family size of the dressings. And let's be honest, at the end of the day, the cap looks very crusty after about 3 days of you not using it, and it's just not good for you. But first, let's start off with a very simple vinaigrette. This is going to be a balsamic vinaigrette. Whenever you make vinaigrettes, you incorporate extra virgin olive oil and then also a neutral oil. The big key though is that when you incorporate the neutral oil, it needs to be the majority of the oil that you put in. Extra virgin olive oil gives it a very viscous taste, but the down part to it is that extra virgin olive oil is very, very bitter. So if you use a lot of extra virgin olive oil, guess what your vinaigrette's going to be? Very, very bitter. Another rule for yourself is that you can either do a 3-to-1 or a 4-to-1 depending on your preference, but that 3-to-1, 4-to-1 is vinegar to oil. And so for myself, depending of course on the vinegar, I like to go with the 1-to-3, which is 1 part vinegar, 3 parts oil. So guess what? Let's start off with the balsamic vinaigrette. So now what we're gonna do, easily measure. You can find anything that you can measure in your house. I'm using a little cup for my measurement. I'm gonna go to this line right here, so that's gonna be 1 for me. And then I'm gonna pour in 3 cups of the vegetable oil and then just a splash or 2 of the extra virgin olive oil. And with anything of this measurement wise, which you're looking at about 1/2 cup, so 1.5 cups of the oil, you're looking at about 1 to 2 teaspoons for that vinaigrette. And also with a vinaigrette, whenever you whisk it, it's gonna combine for maybe 10 seconds, but then guess what? Everything's gonna separate because it's a vinaigrette, and sometimes oil and vinegar do not mesh. So let's start. So I'm gonna measure out really quick. We're doing a balsamic vinegar. You can buy balsamic vinegar in any supermarket. So I'm just measuring out to my equal sign here. Going in with 1 part, and then we'll be going in with 3 parts of the oil. Some people will say that you need to whisk immediately whenever you are incorporating oil into it. Unless it is an emulsified vinaigrette, that does not hold true. And this is a traditional vinaigrette, and so this doesn't hold true. And now I've done the 3 and the 1, and now we're gonna add a little bit of 1/4 of what our measurements were to finish it off. And then also 2 teaspoons of salt. Whenever I did come to France, I would always say do or dough, and I would always get water and also the number 2 confused. And yes, water in France is dough, if you wanted to know, and that rhymed. So. But anyway, so now what we're doing, I'm literally just whisking this. It's not gonna combine fully for yourself, but the easy part is that now you have a very flavorful vinaigrette. It literally took us all of maybe getting the ingredients together, your mise en place, and then actually stirring it, maybe 2 minutes. And so what is 2 minutes creating something at your home that then lasts for 2 weeks as opposed to going to the supermarket? Time, energy, and better flavor. So this is our balsamic vinaigrette. It pairs well with spinach, romaine, above other things, mixed greens as well. So yeah, so this is our balsamic vinaigrette.
Action.
Action. And welcome back. So we're now on our second vinaigrette. This is going to be an emulsified vinaigrette, and we're gonna be making honey mustard. And you might ask yourself, what is emulsified vinaigrette, Burton? So whenever we did our first vinaigrette of just the balsamic regular oil, which is a neutral oil that doesn't have any flavor, but it is oil, and then extra virgin olive oil, it is a traditional vinaigrette because if you let it sit for more than say 3 minutes, it will then separate the vinegar and then also the oil. So an emulsified vinaigrette is that whenever you let it set for more than 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 2 days, 3 days, it's still gonna stay together and it's gonna be very, very thick and creamy. And the way that we go about that is incorporating mustard into it. So, seeing that a lot of people in America love a good honey mustard dressing, why don't we make it at home? So we're gonna be doing our neutral oil, canola oil, vegetable oil, apple cider vinegar, because apples and mustard and honey go very, very well with each other. Extra virgin olive oil, just again, a little bit for that flavor. We have mustard, whoopsies, honey, salt, and then to add a little bit more flavor intensity into it, because mustard is very, very pungent, and the honey, they don't really go well with each other in the sense of they're on the end of the spectrum. We're gonna add a little bit of chili to help curve into it. So, whenever you're making an emulsified vinaigrette, one thing you need to always start with will be the mustard. And so we're gonna start with about 2 tablespoons of mustard. And then also, the same thing, 2 tablespoons of honey. From here, I'm gonna go ahead and add 1 teaspoon of our salt. And now I'll begin to whisk. And we just want to incorporate this together so that we have a good flavor base. From here, we're still going to satisfy the 3-to-1 rule, but seeing that we are going to make the honey mustard vinaigrette and we want it to be more of the honey and the actual mustard, we're going to satisfy a 4-to-1 rule so that the vinegar is not very, very prominent throughout. And so that being said, we have our apple cider vinegar. We're going to do 1 part of apple cider vinegar. Go, 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 chug, 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 chug. Okay. I'm gonna pour that in, whisk. Now with an emulsified vinaigrette, I can't stress enough is that we can't pour the oil all the way in very, very quickly. We have to drizzle it in. So, what I've done to help me with this is that I've gotten a paper towel, I've wetted the paper towel, and then I can put the bowl on top of it and it won't move as I spin it around. So as I'm incorporating this, I'm just gonna go on the side. And it's gonna take a little time, but you just keep drizzling it. And yes, sir. And you keep whisking. And so guess what? We're gonna go right back to it. In restaurants, it's a lot easier to make vinaigrettes because we use what we call a either electric mixer or what they call is a robot coupe. And guess what? All you do is turn it on and you let everything else go. It's pretty nice. So now we're at our 2nd cup of oil. The mixture is getting thicker and I'm trying to go quick with it. Whenever you're making a emulsified vinaigrette, you want to go quick, especially with the oil, so that the oil doesn't separate. Whenever it separates, then you have to start all the way back over and then reincorporate what broke for you. And then also do it in a streamline pattern. All right. So as you notice, it is very, very thick. It's not separated on us, and this will be our last 4th that we're adding. And this is a thick vinaigrette that you can put on romaine lettuce. Romaine lettuce is a very watery lettuce, and so it needs a thicker dressing as opposed to maybe a vinaigrette that's going to be very, very thin for yourself. And the good thing about making a honey mustard dressing at your house is that it doesn't have any preservatives in it either. Lastly, now we're going to add a little bit of chili powder, adding half a teaspoon to this. And you might think half a teaspoon isn't a lot, but just let the flavors mellow. When I say mellow, whenever you cook something or you make a vinaigrette, over time the flavors are going to mellow into each other and the flavor of the entirety is going to be a little bit more pronounced. And so after we say we let this set for 30 minutes, the chili flavor will really come through. And now we have just finished our honey mustard vinaigrette with a dash, 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil. It's going to add a little bit of bitterness, but then also that full bodiness to it as well. And we have honey mustard vinaigrette at home. And again, no preservatives. It took maybe 2 minutes to get everything mise en place and whisking, and there you go. So enjoy. All right, so now we're back to our vinaigrette part 3 section. What this is going to be incorporating is our citronette into your base knowledge. So now we already have a traditional vinaigrette, an emulsified vinaigrette, and now we have what is called a citronette. So if you're looking at our products here, guess what? We don't have any vinegar. A citronette is going to incorporate the juice of something that is acid, that is probably, seeing that it says a lemon, an orange, grapefruit, so on. Lime, very good choice for that. And this citronette, we're actually going to do shallots, orange, lemon juice, salt, a little bit of neutral oil again, and then also our extra virgin olive oil. For any citronette, it needs to satisfy the 3-to-1 ratio. If you do the 4-to-1 ratio, the citrus flavor is not abundant in the citronette. And with that, guess what? You don't taste the citronette, you taste all oil. And then when you put it on your salad or your strawberries or whatever you're doing, it just doesn't have the flavor impact of it. So what we're gonna do and start off with is actually gonna be a lemon. I measured this out earlier, so what we're gonna, half of a lemon, we'll incorporate to about 2 tablespoons. This is gonna be a very small citronette. If you do have to make a citronette with, say, for a lot of people, make sure you have a juicer on hand. It's a little bit easier for you. So we're gonna start off with 3 tablespoons of that. We have orange supremes that are going to go into it. As I'm whisking, it's gonna break them up. A little bit of shallots, which is gonna be 2 tablespoons, and these are minced, by the way. And the shallots are gonna help bring out a little bit of acidity as well, especially with the lemon juice. 1 teaspoon of salt. And from here, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna use my whisk to mash down a little bit of the orange supremes. And what a supreme is whenever you segment any kind of fruit and you take the seeds away from it and then also the skin. So from here, then we're just gonna whisk. And it's gonna be a little bit of a sweeter vinaigrette because again, we're incorporating orange supremes into this, so it does have a little bit of sugar content into it. So it's not gonna have that bite that you're looking at. So now we're gonna go in with a neutral oil. Again, seeing that we did 2-3 tablespoons. Keep going. And boom. You'll see that it's starting to form a little bit of a vinaigrette, but just like a traditional vinaigrette for this citronette, it will separate over time. One thing I like to do is always keep a citronette vinaigrette, emulsified vinaigrette, in a bottle that I can shake once I have it in the refrigerator, because it's easy to incorporate back and if it did, say, separate from yourself. So from here, we always need to finish with a little bit of extra virgin olive oil because it gives a little bit of full body. We're gonna add about 2 tablespoons to this. If you get really good olive oil, it'll be fruity instead of bitter. So just understand that. But the price of, say, a bottle just like that is probably gonna run you about $30, $35 in the States. So for very good olive oil. So with that being said, we're gonna let this mellow for about 30 minutes and then we're gonna make a salad and put it on top. But you have a little bit of your oranges, add that sweetness. You have your lemon, so that's gonna be your cut into the vinaigrette. Your neutral oil, a little bit of salt, shallots for the acidity, and then finishing off with your extra virgin olive oil for your full bodiness. So this is your first citronette, and you can do, again, any citron, well, that's what they say here in France, my apologies, citron, lemon juice, lime juice, orange juice, grapefruit juice, you name it, go with it. And if you want a little bit more touch of brightness, add the zest of either the orange, the lime, the lemon, so forth. So, bon appetit. Okay, so our last vinaigrette that we're gonna be doing is actually gonna be a warm vinaigrette. It's gonna be incorporating one of the most famous green beans as a play on this appetizer slash side dishes that we have in the South United States. So what we're doing, we've seared off our bacon. We're gonna put into this shallots. We're gonna cook both of those. From there, we're gonna go in with a little bit of salt because bacon's already salty enough. Our neutral oil, a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, and then once this comes to a boil, then we will add apple cider vinegar and then also some maple syrup. The reason that we're not adding the apple cider vinegar first is because whenever you heat any kind of vinegar, it's very, very toxic. And so we don't want to have that smell for ourselves. So we've got our bacon seared off. We're going to throw in our shallots. We're going to throw in about 2 tablespoons worth of shallots that we have minced again. And all we're going to do is just toss those just ever so slightly with the bacon. You want to get a good smell from that, and then from that smell, all we're going to do is add in our oil because we want this to be a very, very hot vinaigrette. Very, very good with any kind of spinach or anything that's very, very leafy, kale for instance. 2 tablespoons, a little bit of virgin olive oil. And now we're going to bring this to a boil. We want it to boil rapidly, so then all the flavor of the bacon and the shallot infuses into the oil. And again, once it comes to a rapid boil, then we'll add our maple syrup to add a little bit of sweetness to it. And then also, here's our salt, also our apple cider vinegar. Smell is very, very lovely. It's, of course, bacon and onions, we couldn't really go wrong with that. But these are shallots, which is a milder form of an onion, has a little bit of a garlicky taste to it, so it lends very, very well to bacon. Once we have boiled, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of vinegar. Again, do not smell, do not smell. And then 1 tablespoon of syrup, of maple. And guess what? All right, so with the 4 vinaigrettes that we made, the honey mustard, I just want to let you know, you can put it with anything, chicken wings, pork, you name it. But what we've done is made a few concepts for you to think about, very easy concepts, not all this clutter, flutter, as they like to say. So we started off with the balsamic vinaigrette. What I've done is just half strawberries, a little bit of some spinach that we got from the market, tossed it in the balsamic vinaigrette. Very simple salad. If you'd like to add any feta cheese to that, great choice. Goat cheese, great choice. You can go with this. With the warm bacon vinaigrette, we did romaine lettuce because it's a thicker kind of lettuce, and so it allows for a hot vinaigrette to be put on top of it. With that, we added some shredded cheddar cheese. You can say it's a little bit of a play on a BLT. I understand that there's no tomato, but if you add tomato, you got a BLT with cheese. And then lastly, we have a fennel and orange salad. So we have orange supremes that we used in the citronette. So the citronette is going with the fennel. It's going to help cut through the fennel. Very, very good salad, especially on a wintry afternoon or a fall afternoon. I understand that it might be summer where you're at, whenever you're reading this, whenever you're seeing this. But again, this is a progression throughout the seasons. So you have a fall, winter, summer, spring-ish. And then for the honey mustard, again, it can do spring, summer, winter, fall. So Hope you enjoyed the vinaigrette section, and never be afraid to try new things. And with everything that you see here on cooking the basics, understand that it's a concept. Recipes are nice and recipes are easy to follow, but if you understand the concept, strawberries can be supplanted for something else. Raspberries, for instance. The lettuce can be done for kale if you like bacon and kale together. So always think about how we're preparing the things, but think conceptually about it. So from all of us here in Paris, because this is where we're shooting at, from the team that we've assembled, thank you so much for following us. Thank you so much for watching the videos. We like to say bon appetit, bon appetito. Have a good meal, and we'll see y'all soon for part 2.